it's Kai Deering, independent associate with PPLSI, LegalShield, and IDShield. And it's hard to believe that today is the 6th episode of really some tips on how to prevent, not really prevent, but how to deal with identity theft. And so I'm super excited because this is our 7th episode. And we've been doing this as we lead up into Black Friday, right? Cyber Monday, and of course, Small Biz Saturday. And so I'm delighted to be able to share with you a couple of things today. And we've gone over who's doing it, right? What it is, who's doing it, why they're doing it. And today is the day you've been waiting for. This is where we're going to talk about some real prevention tips and how they get your information. So let's jump into it right now. So we're going to talk about how they get it. This is just some non-traditional ways. Of course, we're talked about hacking and big database and all that good stuff. But today we're going to talk about stealing, getting your wallet or purse misplaced or stolen. So let's chat about that just for a hot second. If your wallet, your purse, your information has been outside of your, really your eyesight for any length of time, my recommendation is be sure to cancel your credit cards, because I've seen many cases over the years where somebody lost their purse, lost their wallet, they got it returned. So somebody turned it into the manager at the restaurant or what have you, because really they didn't want the purse and they didn't want you to cancel the credit card. So what they did was they'll take pictures of the credit card, they'll jot the numbers down, that kind of or anything that's in there that's of value, then they return it. So you're not any wiser. You're thinking, oh, good, I got it back, right? I must have just left it somewhere. So if you've ever had that be away from your person for any length of time, my recommendation is definitely cancel all of it ASAP that's in there. They also can get it by stealing your mail. So let's talk about stealing your mail for a hot second. And you can put comments on here and interact. That'd be great. Excuse me. So if you're talking about stealing your mail, so obviously I think a lot of people are aware that you don't want to put the big red flag up that says, hey, I've got some mail in here, right? And that tells thieves, hey, there's something in here that we might want to get. So a couple of tips that I have for you today about, when you're going to mail something, 2 things. Number 1 is I would take any of your bills, and a lot of people are paying them electronically. That's great. But if you're still paying a couple of bills, which I am, I wrote a check the other day, don't laugh, to a friend of mine for some vitamins. So some people are still using checks. I write checks to rent places sometimes. So for our LegalShield business, so I actually will write a check and do not put it in your mailbox with the thing up. Do not put it in the local blue bin either. Here's why. I lived in Palo Alto and they arrested a guy who had a flip-flop that he had done with duct tape all over it, put a string on it and was sticking it into the post box and then back up, like literally fishing. And so my recommendation, this is my first recommendation, is you go and take it directly to the post office. That's all under video as well. So people won't be as likely to go in there and tamper with any of that information. And the second thing on, paying, worrying about your mail is I would get a locking mailbox or get a PO box, even better. Now it's inconvenient, I know, to have a PO box, but it is probably one of the better things to do. And I see people that have a box or a mailbox out by the street, put it up. Ours is right up against the front door. So people would have to, mailman included, I'm sure they don't love it, have to walk all the way up to the front to be able to do it. A lot of people in my neighborhood have it at their garage. Well, that's right out there exposed to everybody. So my recommendation is get a PO box, a locking box. This is number 2. Or, go ahead and get a PO or a locking box and put it near the house. We also have people that have large banks. They live in condos or they live in, townhouses, and there's a big bank of those. Those are the most dangerous because think about it, with one crowbar, push it open, that whole thing flaps forward. I've got everybody's mail. So especially if you live in a communal living, my recommendation is for sure get a PO box. I mean, for sure get a PO box. They're just a little bit more opportunistic in those areas and a lot of people coming and going. So that would be my recommendation on that one. We also want to talk to you about auto burglary. I think we mentioned this a little bit with who's doing it, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it. Organized crime will pay street gangs and thugs and whatnot to go break into cars. They're like, you can have anything that's in the vehicle. We don't care. We just want what's in the glove box. So be really mindful of what you have in the glove box. So lock the glove box every time. If you've got a, valet driver or something that's kind of opportunistic, that's making minimum wage, they may or may not be interested in what's in your glove box, and they could sell it. So be aware of what's in there, because it could be your address, right? You don't want your address in there, especially if you've got a garage door opener. It just makes sense. Now they know where you live. They could take your garage door opener. So be very mindful of what is in your vehicle and available. Now, agreed, if they break into your car, they're going to be able to break into your trunk, but make it more difficult for them by locking that as well. And then we're going to talk a little bit about insiders. So insiders, that just means people at help desk, to be really mindful. There's not a lot you can do about this, because it is how they're getting your information. So Yahoo a while back had an insider that, people were paying for their premium account, took all their information and was selling it. There's another one that was in Oregon doing an identity theft seminar. And I talked to a gentleman at the bank. He was a bank, manager, and they went for a routine kind of, something else unrelated. And they wanted to look through the manager's apartment, and they found a ton of print screens of a lot of their customers. And when they kind of went back, we said, should they have print screens of all that? No, absolutely not. They were selling it for $100 each on those print screens. So there's not a lot we can do about that, but just, I want you to know who's doing it, how they're doing it. And that's one of the ways that they're doing that. So they could steal your wallet. Like I had somebody get their wallet stolen, their locker broken into at the gym, and their wallet was still in the gym locker. And they thought, great, I scared off the thief. Well, again, they probably just took pictures of the credit cards, because within an hour or two, he was already hit. We talked about stealing mail, so be really judicious with that. We talked about auto burglaries and insiders. We're going to be talking about a lot more, but the last one I'm going to leave you with for just how do thieves get your information, of course, is through big data and data breaches, which we'll talk a little bit about. That's not my forte. My forte is really how they're getting it. If you, especially if you're traveling overseas, if your ATM machine that you're using for looks hinky, and if you've ever seen, I love it. What is the show from Las Vegas, right? Mark, what's the name of the show from Las Vegas that I loved so much? CSI. Oh my gosh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, honey. From CSI, they had a whole episode on this where the guy was in the van and he had a little camera focused right on where people would put their PIN number. And he had a reader on there twice, once for him to read it, once for the bank to read it. And then he just needed the PIN. So he had a little camera on there. And when they busted him, the van door flew open and all these slips of paper flew out. So just be mindful, if the ATM is not at a bank and it's like at the donut shop or the whatever, just be very mindful that that could be a challenge as well. So with that, I'm going to come back to you tomorrow. Yes, it's going to be Thanksgiving, but we're heading right up to Cyber Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday. So what we've been doing, this is episode 7, so you might want to go back. The first 3 episodes, we went over the different areas of identity theft. Then we went over who's doing it. Now we went over kind of how they're doing it. We're going to continue with this conversation tomorrow. I know it's Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. We're going to go over this tomorrow and talk about some prevention tips as well. So some things you can do to reduce your risk. So with that, take care, take charge. I'm excited that you were able to join us today, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.